has been that of Lyhanna, the 11-year-old girl murdered.
The body of an 11-year-old girl, Lyhanna, who had been missing since May 29.
Dozens of demonstrators gathered in Paris amid outrage over the killing of an 11-year-old girl.
How does an 11-year-old girl disappear and never come home again? And how does a man who had faced multiple previous allegations remain free until another child disappeared? The case of Lyhanna shocked France and left an entire country asking hard questions. People were not only grieving the loss of a young girl, they were also angry. As more information came out, many people believed earlier warning signs had not been acted upon. The story became about much more than one crime. It became a story about a system that many people believed had failed to protect children. Today, we are taking a closer look at the heartbreaking case of Lyhanna, the investigation that followed, and why thousands of people filled the streets demanding change. A normal day that turned into a nightmare. Before this case made headlines across France, Lyhanna was simply an 11-year-old girl with her whole life ahead of her. She lived in southwestern France and was known as a happy child who spent time with family and friends. Like many children her age, she had school, hobbies, and dreams for the future. But everything changed when Lyhanna suddenly disappeared. At first, her family hoped she would be found quickly. Every passing hour brought more worry. Search efforts began, and people across the community waited for good news. Sadly, that good news never came. Days after she vanished, investigators made a discovery that would leave the entire country heartbroken. Lyhanna was found dead. The news spread quickly. Family members were devastated. Friends struggled to understand what had happened. The local community was left in shock. But as investigators continued looking into the case, another troubling detail began to emerge. The man who was already known to authorities. As police worked to understand what happened, attention turned toward a suspect. What made the situation even more disturbing was that this was not the first time authorities had heard his name. Reports revealed that the suspect had previously faced allegations involving children. According to information that later became public, complaints had been filed over several years. Some of those complaints involved serious allegations connected to minors. Yet despite those allegations, no conviction had been secured. Even more alarming, government reviews later identified delays, communication failures, and procedural mistakes in how some earlier complaints had been handled. Reports also indicated that, in some cases, investigators had not fully questioned the suspect before Lyhanna disappeared. When these details became public, many people were stunned. Families across France began asking the same question. Could this tragedy have been prevented? That question would soon become the center of a national debate. A country demands answers. As the investigation continued, public anger began growing. People were not only mourning Lyhanna, they were demanding explanations. Government officials faced intense criticism after information surfaced about previous complaints connected to the suspect. Many people believed earlier warning signs had not been acted upon. Some officials openly admitted that serious institutional mistakes may have been made. France's justice minister described the situation as a serious institutional failure and announced reviews of thousands of cases involving children. Senior French officials also spoke publicly about the case, acknowledging serious failures and saying that earlier intervention may have changed the outcome. Those statements received widespread attention because it was unusual for senior officials to acknowledge failures so directly. But for many families and child protection groups, words alone were not enough. They wanted action. The growing questions about the justice system. As news coverage expanded, attention shifted toward the French justice system. Advocates for children argued that Lyhanna's case revealed problems that had existed for years. Many said the issue was not one isolated mistake. Instead, they believed the system was struggling to handle large numbers of complaints involving children. According to reports discussed after the case, thousands of complaints involving minors were still waiting to be reviewed. That number shocked many people. Critics argued that delays created dangerous situations where warning signs could be missed. They claimed that investigations sometimes moved too slowly and that cases were being closed before enough evidence could be gathered. Support groups pointed out that children often need specially trained officers to conduct interviews. Without proper training, important information can be overlooked. As these discussions continued, Lyhanna's death became a symbol of a much larger problem. The outrage spreads across France. Soon, public frustration turned into action. Large gatherings began taking place throughout the country. People carried signs calling for change. Many held pictures of Lyhanna. Others carried messages that read, "Never again." The rallies were emotional. Parents stood alongside teachers, community members, and child protection advocates. Many people attending had never met Lyhanna, but they saw her case as a warning that something needed to change. Thousands joined silent marches to honor her memory. The scenes were powerful. People walked quietly through streets filled with grief, sadness, and anger. The message was clear. Children deserved better protection. Why advocates said the system was broken. As public discussions continued, advocacy groups spoke openly about what they believed was wrong. According to child protection organizations, the problem was not a lack of information. They argued that reports, studies, and recommendations had already identified many weaknesses. What they believed was missing was action. Advocates said children who report abuse need trained professionals who know how to listen carefully and gather information correctly. They also argued that investigators and prosecutors need enough resources to examine complaints thoroughly. Without those resources, important cases can sit for months or even years. Groups supporting victims pointed out that some complaints involving children were being closed without reaching trial. They argued that this left some children without protection. For them, Lyhanna's case represented the consequences of these failures. The questions about resources. Another major issue involved staffing and resources. Experts pointed to the large number of cases waiting for review. They argued that prosecutors were handling enormous workloads. When too many cases arrive at once, it becomes harder to give each one the attention it deserves. Some experts claimed that decisions were sometimes being made too quickly because there simply was not enough time available. Others said there were not enough specially trained officers working with children. According to discussions following the case, only a small number of officers had received specialized training designed for interviewing young victims. Advocates argued that increasing those numbers could help improve investigations. For many observers, these concerns highlighted how complicated the problem had become. The human cost behind the statistics. While officials debated policies and procedures, Lyhanna's family faced an unbearable loss. For them, this was never about numbers or government reports. It was about a child who should still be here. A daughter. A family member. A young girl with dreams that would never have the chance to come true. That human side of the story touched people across France. Many parents imagined their own children. Many families thought about how quickly life can change. The emotional impact of the case helped keep public attention focused on the need for answers. People did not want Lyhanna to become just another headline. They wanted her story remembered. The review of thousands of cases. In response to growing criticism, officials announced plans to review a large number of complaints involving children. The goal was to identify cases that might require additional attention. For many people, this announcement was an important first step. However, others questioned whether the reviews would be enough. Advocates argued that long-term changes were also necessary. They called for more training, more investigators, more prosecutors, and stronger protections for children. Some groups proposed major reforms that would affect schools, law enforcement agencies, healthcare workers, and courts. They believed protecting children required cooperation from every part of society. The discussion quickly expanded beyond Lyhanna's case alone. It became a conversation about how children are protected throughout the country. The suspect and the investigation. As public attention focused on broader issues, investigators continued their work on the criminal case itself. Authorities gathered evidence and worked to understand exactly what happened. While legal proceedings continued, many details remained part of the ongoing investigation. However, one fact remained at the center of public concern. The suspect had previously appeared in complaints involving children. For many people, that fact was impossible to ignore. It became the reason why so many questions were directed toward officials and institutions. The public wanted to know whether earlier intervention could have changed the outcome. The legacy of Lyhanna's case. Some criminal cases disappear from public memory after a few weeks. Lyhanna's case was different. It became part of a larger national conversation about child safety and accountability. Her name came to represent concerns about delayed investigations, limited resources, and missed opportunities to protect vulnerable children. Advocacy groups continued pushing for reforms. Government officials faced pressure to show results. Families across the country followed developments closely. For many people, Lyhanna's story became a reminder that every complaint involving a child deserves serious attention. The death of Lyhanna was a tragedy that deeply affected France. An 11-year-old girl lost her life, leaving behind a grieving family and a community searching for answers. But this case also forced difficult conversations about how allegations involving children are handled and whether enough is being done to protect them. As investigations, reviews, and reforms continue, many people hope that lessons will be learned from what happened. At the time of this video, the criminal proceedings remain ongoing, and the courts will ultimately determine criminal responsibility. For those who marched in the streets carrying signs that read, "Never again," the goal is simple. They want a future where warning signs are not ignored, where children are heard, and where another family never has to experience the same heartbreak. If you found this case informative, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more true crime stories explained in simple and easy-to-understand language.